Good evening. It's 7:01, and I'd like to call the meeting of the Urbana City Council to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr.
Here.
Ammons, Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Jacobson,
Here.
Mr. Madigan, Ms. Marlin,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Mr. Smythe,
Here.
Mayor Pressing.
Here. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, March 6, 2017.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Smythe, seconded by Ammons. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, under petitions and communications, I have, I think the police chief wants to say something first.
For 6 years, I've asked not to do this, and now look, I'm doing it. It's you.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I have a few more days of light duty, so Bob is going to be holding down the ship for the rest of the night. But as with so many decisions in life, timing seems to play such an important role. I asked the mayor for just a few minutes this evening so that I could personally take the time to thank each and every one of you. As the letter that I just distributed to you indicates, I'm submitting my formal resignation, and I just wanted to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to serve this community. Wow. Now, see, look at this stuff, damn it. I initially practiced reading this into the record, and then I get to the part about family, and I'll get all teary-eyed, and I'm not going to cry on national television. So I simply want to do this. I want to say thank you all for such a great run. I can tell you that the police officers and the employees of the city of Urbana, specifically the police department, are incredible, and you're left in good hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pat.
Well,
I give you a standing ovation.
Pat, you can't just leave like that, man. Please have a seat.
See, now Aaron is going to try to make me cry. Don't do it. We're done. All right, what's up?
All right, so first and foremost, thank you for your service. Whether or not we agree and all that type of stuff, I respect people who serve the community in whatever capacity that they do, right?
Thank you.
Like I said, whether or not we're always on the same page or whatever, sacrifices that we make with our families, just the being on the front lines of many things as an officer. It may not come across this way when I'm dealing with other officers in the police department, but I respect what you do.
Thank
I
you.
respect your sacrifice and your service, and I thank you for it, and I wish you the best, you and your family both.
Thank you
man.
very much.
You're welcome,
I
man.
appreciate that.
I want to thank you for all your outreach to the community. I know you really believe in community policing, and we all appreciate what you have done for all these years for Urbana, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Dennis Roberts.
Yeah, and I'd really like to appreciate the fact that you were so flexible in establishing the Civilian Police Review Board. You supported that from the day one, and I think that was such an important step for our community, so I really want to appreciate that and your service in that regard.
Thank you, Dennis.
Diane.
It's been an honor and a privilege to work with you, particularly in addressing the issues in Ward 7, and I appreciate your leadership in the Community Coalition, and especially in CU Fresh Start. I think that's been a groundbreaking initiative, and you were one of the you were the first from the city of Urbana to see the importance of that years ago, and you've carried it through to today, and that's part of your legacy. So thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Eric.
So I'm composing a resolution in my head, and the effect of it would be your resignation is not accepted. You may not go.
Bill Brown.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for your service and your leadership in the community, and I know you've been instrumental really in bringing a lot of the chiefs together to address problems in the community, and you've always answered my questions really efficiently and quickly whenever I've had any. And from the ACLU perspective, I can say it was a real pleasure for you and all the chiefs to meet with us whenever we had an issue we wanted to talk about, and when you gave us a heads up on any issues that you were concerned about. So we're going to miss that, and I hope you help us find a good replacement.
Thank you very much.
Charlie.
I'd be remiss not to add my own sentiments, which echo those of everybody else here. I've really enjoyed working with you. I think we've made some incredible strides in the last 10 years with you on the command team and then as chief. So thank you very much, and you will be missed.
Thank you.
The great news is there are 56 now behind me who are just as passionate and just as committed. So, as I said, you're in great hands. Thank you all again.
Who should I give a hard time to when, how long do I?
Aaron,
Oh,
for
okay.
1 week, just be nice to everybody.
All right, I got you, man.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, Durrell Cruz.
Durrell Cruz, 2007 South George Huff Drive. Before I start, I'll go ahead and let the little handout get passed around. But I do want to make a couple of preliminary comments or acknowledgments. Last 2 months I've been out of town, but I've been able to watch every city council meeting, and I must acknowledge the work that Jake and Jason do at UPTV. It is amazing the work that they do, the quality of it, and the access it provides for governmental coverage. And even if you're 2,000 miles away, you can watch live city council meetings. It would not be right if I didn't at least now also acknowledge the work of Chief Conley. I met with Chief Conley probably about 3 weeks when he was appointed the chief of the Urbana Police Department 4 or 5 years ago. And so I've had many opportunities to have conversations with him, and I respect his work, and he does need to be acknowledged for the professionalism and his concern and care for the safety and well-being of the city. And so, thank you, Chief. So, I'll start. The time and investment of the city staff and UPD given to addressing traffic stop racial disparities the past 5 years has been great. With all this work, effort, and cost, committees, data collection, reports, community outreach, diversity training, etc., one would expect to see some credible evidence of declining traffic stop racial disparities. 2 weeks ago, I FOIA'd 2016 traffic stop data to compare past with current data to see if this was the case. Sadly, it was not. Usually this data comes out in June and July, and I knew the UPD had to file it with the state at the end of February, so I wanted to get a close look to see what was going on. The chart is there before you for the last 5 years. As you can see, the percent of traffic stops for African American drivers is in the left-hand column. The percent of the driving public is determined by the city statistician. The number of African American stops each of those 5 years, and then the number of stops that occur as a result of the disparity if African American drivers were stopped at the 18.56%. Conclusions looking at this. The African American percent of all stops the last 5 years remains fundamentally unchanged. In 2016, they were still 53% more likely to be stopped than expected. 2, the highest and lowest percent variation during these 5 years is only 1.76%. The percent rate of stops seems unaffected by the annual stops, which we've seen for 14 years. If stopped at the 18.56% rate, African American drivers would have had 2,019 fewer stops the past 5 years. The African American community continues to be negatively impacted by this recurring disparity. And 6, every action taken, decision made, and dollars spent by the City Council to date has failed to reduce this racial disparity. A little side comment. You have passed ordinances lowering marijuana fees, upholding sanctuary city status, passed resolution on mental health funding, purchased mapping software, had presentations on body cameras and reentry programs, hired officers, expanded neighborhood watch groups and meetings, continued officer diversity training, and are considering hiring a potential police community coordinator. These are all good things.
You
but
have
they
1 minute, Mr. Cruz.
But they have not, and they will not, reduce traffic stop racial disparities because they simply are unrelated to the core cause of the problem. The sooner you realize and acknowledge this fact, the sooner the city's effort can be turned to where it will make a difference. And so the caveat thought, every IDOT traffic stop is conducted at the discretion of the patrol officer. The enforcement of traffic laws should be fair and equitably applied to all races, regardless of whether they are routine traffic safety stops or pretextual investigatory stops. Racial disparities occur most frequently when officer discretion, intentional or unintentional, is neither uniformly nor equitably applied to all races. These racial disparities will only be minimized when there is both a clearly written and public stated standard for conducting a traffic stop and officer discretion is regularly monitored and accountable. Is that 5 minutes? Okay. May I have just a minute or two to finish this?
Please.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay. And I would like to mention in 2014, I brought to your attention comments in the state IDOT traffic study made by Dr. Jack Glasser, and I included his website on the back of the page so you could look at it. And he was asked by Al Weiss why the racial disparities existed in the state's traffic stop data. And Dr. Glasser said, the racial disparities are likely the result of different thresholds of reasonable suspicion, intentional or unintentional, applied by officers when stopping minority drivers versus Caucasian drivers. His conclusion is the same that Epp, Maynard Moody, and Howard Marker and pulled over identified, as well as many other current research that's been done on the subject. And I highlighted on the back, and I won't read those, but it'd be worth reading to see what his conclusions and his work has revealed. So lastly, I would like to mention, moving forward, the City Council should, 1, have the UPD update the Council and public at least quarterly regarding new data and actions taken either to better understand or reduce traffic stop racial disparities. In mid-December, the last time the UPD presented a report to you, they said they would do it monthly. I'm not aware that there has been any other further presentations made by the UPD to you nor the public. Number 2, request the UPD to compile and report traffic stop data for the most recent 6 months that documents both the racial makeup of pretextual investigatory stops and the degree to which such stops may or may not have reduced various types of crime. And I want to highlight, once again in December, the UPD presentation showed that from 2014 to 2016, year to date, there were 10,980 stops, of which only 267 resulted in an arrest, 2.4%. 80% of those, 213, were for outstanding warrants, DUIs, and revoked license. It is clear that the current data does not support the myth that routine IDOT traffic stops is a major policing tactic that reduces neighborhood violence crime or crimes such as home burglaries, shootings, muggings, theft, etc. For the most part, police tactics for fighting neighborhood crime compared to conducting routine traffic stops are different and marginally related. And the last one, direct the UPD to conduct pretextual investigatory stops only when there is clear evidence of reasonable suspicion of criminal behavior or activity on the part of the driver or passenger until the city has a council to discuss the findings in the report in 2. And I'll conclude to say the African American community has been exceedingly patient during this time. Nearly 18 months have passed since the Traffic Stop Task Force presented its recommendations to you. The data and research is clear. If local police departments are serious about reducing traffic stop racial disparities, they must establish a uniform legal standard of reasonable suspicion for conducting traffic stops, and that officers be trained, monitored, and be held accountable to that standard. Or as Dr. Glasser said in his last statement, departments and cities need improved data collection, improved supervision, and reduced discretion and increased accountability. After 14 years of talking about this problem with little progress to show for everyone's time and effort, the City Council and UPD need to take these 3 steps now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I have Elderess Melinda Carr, who does not wish to address the council, but is concerned about the Ellis Drive subdivision sewer problems, and also Bishop King James and Reverend Dr. Evelyn B. Underwood. Do not wish to speak, but are concerned about the sewer problems. And I do have an announcement, and that is that the Illinois Supreme Court this Thursday is going to issue their ruling on the Carl Foundation, et cetera, et al., appellants versus Cunningham Township, et al., appellees, the appeal from the Appellate Court of the 4th District. So we'll find out on Thursday. So that's good. Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to address the Urbana City Council? Okay, we'll move on. Unfinished business. I don't think we have any. We have a lot of unfinished business, but we're not going to deal with it tonight. Reports of standing committees. Bill Brown.
Yep, the Committee of the Whole met last week and forwarded several items to the Council, all with recommendation for approval. First was Resolution number 2017-03-017R, a resolution of support to plan and create a public greenway and bike and pedestrian multi-use pathway along the Boneyard Creek corridor from the University of Illinois campus to downtown Urbana. And we had a new one in our packet today. So for the committee, I move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Brown, seconded by Roberts.
And there was
So
one
what is the
suggestion.
difference between the two of them?
Well, hardly anything really. It's the new one is fine, except that members of the council have suggested a slight wording change for the end, the last sentence in section 1, which ends currently for the posterity of our descendants, which seems redundant. So we're just suggesting that it be for
Posterity.
posterity.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Okay, so that's friendly amendment.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Next, we have ordinance number 2017-03-013, an ordinance annexing certain territory to the City of Urbana, 2912 East Main Street, Urbana and Champaign Sanitary District. For the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Brown, seconded by Jacobson. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr.
Yes.
Ammons? Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Next, we have resolution number 2017.
Oh, I think there was an error. Am I supposed to vote on that, Madam Clerk?
Annexation.
Mayor Pressing?
I vote yes. Okay. That motion carries.
Next, we have resolution number 2017-03-013R, a resolution certifying a community housing development organization for Urbana Home Consortium for Habitat February 2017. For the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Brown, seconded by Ammons. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr.
Yes.
Ammons, Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson.
Yes.
Ms. Marlin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Smythe.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Next, we have resolution number 2017-03-014R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium Community Housing Development Organization Agreement, Habitat Choto Developer, FY 2016-2017. For the committee, I move approval.
Motion by Brown, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr.
Yes.
Ammons, Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson.
Yes.
Ms. Marlin.
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Smythe.
Motion carried.
Next, we have resolution number 2017-03-015R, resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Urbana, Champaign County Forest Preserve District, and Urbana Park District regarding Kickapoo Rail Trail, agreement to study regarding connectivity of Kickapoo Rail Trail to Weaver Park and surrounding area. For the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Brown, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Mr. Ammons.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson.
Yes.
Ms. Marlin.
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Smythe.
Yes.
That motion carries.
And finally, we have resolution number 2017-03-016R, resolution for improvement by municipality under the Illinois Highway Code for North Lincoln Avenue resurfacing project. For the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Brown, seconded by Ammons. Any discussion? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Mr.
Yes.
Ammons. Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson.
Yes.
Ms. Marlin.
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Smythe.
Yes.
That motion carries. Now we have reports of special committees. Don't have any special committees. Reports of officers. No reports of officers. Then we have new business. Ordinance number 2017-03-014, an ordinance approving major variances to allow the reconstruction of an accessory garage that encroaches into required side yard and rear yard setbacks in the city's R5 medium-high density multiple family residential district at 717 South Broadway Avenue. Hello.
Good evening. The applicant tonight, Mark Gearhart, has requested on behalf of the condominium owners two major variances to reconstruct a garage that encroaches into the required side yard and rear yard setbacks at 717 South Broadway Avenue. And we have this up on the screen. He plans to demolish the existing legally non-conforming one-story four-car garage and requests permission to replace it with a new four-car garage of the same area in the same location on the same foundation. As the current yard setbacks are less than the 5 foot required by the zoning ordinance, Mr. Gearhart requests these two variances so that he can replace the deteriorating garage in its current location and allow ease for access for residents. The site plan, which is up on the screen, does show the proposed garage in the same location with the same dimensions and the same number of spaces. And I've blown it up. This is actually, sorry, this is not the site plan. This is a plat of survey showing where the existing garage is, 2 feet from the rear and 3.5 feet from the side. And the new site plan is shown here, and it is still shown in the same location up in the rear of the property where the cursor is, and then a close-up of the elevation of the garage shows its height and its construction type. The Zoning Board of Appeals found that the requested variances met the variance criteria, and the findings are summarized in today's staff report. City Council has the following options in these cases: to approve the variances, with terms and conditions, or to deny the variances. City staff recommended approval to the Zoning Board of Appeals with the condition that the site is developed in general compliance with the attached site plan and elevations. The Zoning Board of Appeals did vote unanimously at their March 15th meeting to forward these cases to City Council with a recommendation to approve with the condition that the site is developed in general compliance with the attached site plan and elevations.
Okay. Is there, Diane?
I move approval of ordinance 2017-03-014 with the conditions as recommended.
Second.
Motion by Marlin, seconded by Ammons. Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Roberts.
Did I read, do I remember reading that they received one letter from a neighbor?
Yes, yes.
And could you explain what was that communication?
Yes. The neighbor to the west, which was sharing the rear property lines, she had no objection to the proposed reconstruction of the garage in the same location. She was wondering if she had to do anything for the variance, and I told her no. If she wanted to submit a email or other correspondence, either in favor or an objection to it, she was more than welcome to do so, but it would be recorded either way, either verbally or written.
Yeah, okay. I think I read that they did receive correspondence, but they didn't explain what that was, and I appreciate that clarification.
Absolutely.
Eric?
Just a point of information, when a variance is approved with a condition such as this, how is the condition enforced?
I believe in this case, we would give this information to our building safety division. They had actually come in with a building permit application, and the building safety staff knew that the side yard setback wasn't up to current standards, so they came to us. We initiated the variance proceedings, and we will then communicate this with building safety to make sure that they build where they're supposed to build.
Okay. We have a motion by Marlin, seconded by Ammons. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr.
Yes.
Ammons. Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson.
Yes.
Ms. Marlin.
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Smythe.
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is ordinance number 2017-03-015, an ordinance approving and causing the publication of the official zoning map of the City of Urbana, Illinois.
Hi, just popped over here. This is a quick item. This is the annual review of the zoning map. What the map does is shows all of the rezonings, landmarks, and subdivisions that have been previously approved over the last year. When we took this to Plan Commission on March 9th, they unanimously forwarded a recommendation for approval. We would also ask for your approval.
Okay. Charlie?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Smythe, seconded by Ammons. Are any questions?
Quick
Any
one.
discussion? Yes, Charlie?
Yeah, Lori, I assume you're saving money and not giving us drafts this year?
I do have a draft you could take with you, but we will save our money to print the final version, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have a motion by Smythe, and was it second by Ammons? Is that right?
I think it was Aaron Young.
Yeah, okay. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammons.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson.
Yes.
Ms. Marlin.
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Smythe.
Yes.
That motion carries. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.